Have you ever noticed that the more you try to defend yourself, the more your words get twisted? The harder you fight for truth, respect, or justice, the more desperate you appear, while those truly at fault walk away untouched. You try to explain, but they only hear what they want. You confront a betrayal, expecting remorse, but instead, they play the victim. You react to an insult, and suddenly you're caught in a battle you never intended to fight. And then, you realize, the more silent you are, the more control you have. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When you remain silent, you deny them the opportunity to manipulate your emotions. You let time reveal the truth instead of forcing others to see it immediately. You leave your enemies unsettled because they can't predict your next move. They expect you to lash out, to defend yourself, to beg for understanding, but you give them nothing. And that silence, that refusal to engage, is what slowly strips them of their power. This is not a weakness. This is strength. The ability to stay silent at the right moments doesn't just preserve your dignity, it forces those who have wronged you to face the weight of their own actions. There are times when speaking up is necessary, but there are also moments when saying nothing is the most powerful response of all. Silence can be a form of contempt, a refusal to play their game, a declaration that you will not be dragged into their cycle of lies, drama, and manipulation. And when you refuse to engage, the ones who tried to bring you down are left standing in the ruins of their own actions. They destroy themselves without you lifting a finger. Today, we're going to talk about 7 moments when silence is your greatest weapon. When not reacting is not surrender, it's strategy. When walking away is not losing, it's giving karma the space to do its job. Because sometimes the most painful thing you can do to someone is to disappear from their life without a single word. Now tell me, have you ever chosen silence over confrontation? And what happened? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear how you let karma do its work. 1. When someone betrays your trust. Betrayal is a wound that cuts deeper than most. It's not just the act of being deceived, it's the realization that someone you trusted, someone you let into your life, chose to hurt you. When you think about betrayal, it's easy to remember the sharp sting of feeling deceived, the shock of realizing that someone you thought was loyal turned out to be the one to backstab you. A friend, a partner, or even a colleague, someone you shared your trust with, and they broke it. The pain isn't just from the act, it's from the deep sense of loss and betrayal. You start questioning yourself, wondering how you missed the signs and why you gave so much trust to someone who didn't deserve it. In the heat of betrayal, the instinct is always the same: to fight back. You want to confront them. You want to demand answers, to make them see the truth, to make them feel the weight of their actions. You want justice. You want them to apologize, to recognize the damage they've done, and to somehow restore the trust they shattered. But here's the truth. Reacting in anger, seeking revenge, or trying to explain yourself only fuels the fire. The more you react, the more they win. You start getting caught in a loop where your every move only gives them the power to twist the story, manipulate the narrative, and make you look like the villain. So what if the best response isn't to fight back at all? What if the best response is to remain silent and let time reveal the truth? Silence is not weakness, it's one of your greatest powers. Think about it. When you stop engaging in the drama, when you refuse to defend yourself, you stop feeding into their game. Silence doesn't give them any ammunition to use against you. It doesn't allow them to twist your words, manipulate your actions, or create more conflict. Instead, it shows that you are above the situation, that you are not interested in playing their petty games. When someone betrays your trust, the most powerful thing you can do is hold your peace and let the consequences of their actions catch up with them. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. These great minds didn't spend their time reacting to the world around them. They knew that true strength lies in emotional control. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to be mindful of his emotions, to avoid reacting impulsively, and to keep his focus on what he could control. When faced with betrayal, their advice was clear. Don't waste energy trying to explain yourself or defend your reputation. The truth doesn't need defending, it will always reveal itself in time. You must trust that karma will handle it. Picture this. A colleague of yours spreads false rumors about you at work. The betrayal stings, and the urge to confront them, to set the record straight, is overwhelming. But every time you try to explain yourself, they twist your words, turning the situation into an even bigger mess. Instead of engaging, you choose to remain silent. You continue doing your work with integrity, staying focused on your goals, and letting your actions speak louder than any words could. Over time, the truth emerges. The person who spread the lies gets exposed for their behavior, while you remain untouched. Silence worked in your favor. You didn't need to prove anything, because the truth did the work for you. Why did this happen? Because your silence isn't weakness. It's your way of maintaining control. It's a powerful statement that you won't let their lies or actions drag you into their drama. You are in control of your response, and that's where your true power lies. Time, truth, and integrity will eventually expose them. You can't control their actions, but you can control your reaction. And that is where your strength lies. There's another powerful lesson to be learned from this. Let time work for you. The longer you engage in a battle with someone who betrayed you, the more you feed their need for attention and validation. They want you to react. They want you to show emotion, because that's the only way they can feel powerful. But the moment you choose to stop reacting, to let go of the need for their acknowledgement, they lose their control over you. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes into play. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." The trial you are facing, betrayal, is painful, but it is also an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to practice detachment, to grow in emotional resilience, and to trust in the natural course of events. The person who betrayed you might never apologize, and that's okay. They might never admit they were wrong, and that's their burden to bear, not yours. The Stoics taught that true peace comes from within. Your peace doesn't depend on the actions of others, it depends on how you react to those actions. If you stay calm, if you stay centered, you allow yourself to maintain control over your emotions and your life. You let them live with their own guilt while you continue to grow and move forward. The key takeaway here is that you don't need to fight every battle. When someone betrays your trust, stay silent. Let their actions speak louder than your words. Trust in the long game, because time will reveal the truth. Keep your focus on what you can control, your integrity, your emotions, and your future. Don't let their betrayal define you. Let it be the moment you realize your own strength and the power of emotional control. Betrayal might hurt, but it's also a reminder of who you are, what you stand for, and how much stronger you are when you choose not to engage in petty conflict. In the end, betrayal isn't something to fear, it's something to learn from. You can choose to let it consume you, or you can choose to rise above it, knowing that you are in control. Your silence will be your weapon, and over time, it will reveal the truth and restore your peace. The only thing you need to defend is your peace. Let time handle the rest. 2. When someone insults you, insults are weapons disguised as words meant to provoke a reaction, to pull you into a fight you never intended to have. The moment you respond with anger, frustration, or defense, you give away your power. But what if you didn't react? What if you remained unshaken, indifferent to their attempts? What if instead of giving them control over your emotions, you chose silence? This is where true strength lies, not in matching their aggression, not in proving them wrong, but in refusing to let their words dictate your state of mind. Sarah stood in the middle of a team meeting, presenting her ideas with clarity and confidence. She believed in her work, and she knew her proposal had merit. But as she spoke, a male colleague suddenly interrupted her with a loud, dismissive laugh. The sound cut through the room, designed to humiliate, to make her feel small. The other team members turned to Sarah, waiting for her reaction. This was the moment that could break her. She could fire back with anger, defend herself, or challenge him in front of everyone. But Sarah didn't do any of those things. Instead, she paused, looked directly at him, and smiled. Just slightly, just enough to let him know she saw through him. Then she continued her presentation as if nothing had happened. No emotion, no frustration, just pure, unshaken control. The moment shifted. The power in the room changed hands. He had expected a reaction, an argument, a moment of flustered emotion. Instead, he was left with his own behavior hanging in the air, exposed for everyone to see. Without saying a word, Sarah had won. She had shown that his insult was beneath her, that it had no effect on her sense of self-worth. And that is the ultimate power move. The Stoics understood this long ago. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Think about that. The moment you lower yourself to their level, the moment you engage in the same petty behavior, you lose. You hand them control over your emotions. But when you remain calm, when you refuse to give them what they want, you expose them for who they truly are. Insults only hurt when you let them. They target your pride, your ego, your sense of identity. But what if you saw insults for what they truly are? Nothing more than noise, a barking dog, a passing storm, a gust of wind. Does the wind offend the mountain? Does the storm shake its foundation? No. The mountain remains, solid, unmoved. That is what you must become, unshaken in the face of provocation. Because here's the truth, an insult only has power if you accept it. If someone hands you a burning coal and you refuse to take it, who gets burned? The one holding it. People who insult you are often projecting their own insecurities, their own frustrations. Their words say more about them than they do about you. The moment you realize this, you stop taking insults personally. You see them for what they are, desperate attempts to gain control. Imagine walking into any situation, knowing that no matter what someone says, no matter how they try to provoke you, they cannot shake you. They cannot pull you into their drama. They cannot drag you down to their level. This is more than just emotional control. It is absolute freedom. It means you decide what affects you. You decide what deserves your energy. You decide how much power someone else has over your peace of mind. And the best part? The less you react, the stronger you become. Now let's break this down. What should you do the next time someone insults you? First, pause. Do not react immediately. Let the words settle and recognize them for what they are, an attempt to provoke you. Second, observe. Look at the person insulting you. Why are they doing it? Why are they doing it? What is their motivation? In most cases, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Third, choose your response. You have three powerful options: silence, a slight smile, or a calm yet neutral acknowledgement. Silence is the strongest of all. It leaves them with nothing to work with. A slight smile signals that you are unaffected, that their words are meaningless. A neutral acknowledgement, like interesting perspective, lets them know you heard them, but you do not engage. This is how you take back control. This is how you win without fighting. The moment you react, you give them more fuel. You give them validation. But when you remain indifferent, you force them to sit with their own actions, with their own insecurity. And that is a far greater consequence than any argument could ever be. This is not about weakness. It is not about letting people walk over you. It is about understanding that not every battle is worth fighting. Some people thrive on conflict. They seek it, they crave it, they need it to feel powerful. The best thing you can do is deny them that power. Do not give them your energy. Do not let their words disturb your peace. Instead, be like Sarah, be like the Stoics, be like the mountain in the storm. At the end of the day, it's not about what they say. It's about what you allow to affect you. Master this, and you will walk through life untouchable. 3. When someone lies about you, have you ever been accused of something you didn't do? Have you ever watched as someone twisted your words, distorted the truth, and painted you as the villain? It's infuriating, isn't it? The urge to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to make sure everyone knows the truth, it's almost unbearable. But here's the brutal reality. The more you fight the lie, the more power you give it. Lies spread like wildfire. They don't need proof, just attention. The moment you react, whether in anger, frustration, or defense, you give the liar exactly what they want. You validate their deception by engaging in a battle where they control the rules. But what if you did the opposite? What if, instead of chasing the truth, you let the truth find its own way? James had worked at his company for 5 years, earning respect through dedication and hard work. He never played office politics, never sought unnecessary attention. But one day, a rumor surfaced, whispers that he had taken credit for a project that wasn't his. At first, James was shocked. Then he was angry. He wanted to confront the source, to explain himself, to make sure everyone knew he wasn't a fraud. But then he paused. He realized something crucial. Reacting would only make him look guilty. If he ran around justifying himself, people would assume there was something to justify. Instead, James did something unexpected. He stayed silent. He focused on his work, remained professional, and let time reveal the truth. And that's exactly what happened. Weeks later, the real culprit was exposed, and James never had to say a word. This is the power of strategic silence. Lies have an expiration date. Truth, however, is timeless. When you don't react, when you refuse to engage, you deny the liar the energy they crave. You starve the fire until it burns out on its own. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, understood this well. He wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That's all you need. If you have acted with integrity, then you owe no explanation to anyone." But let's be honest, it's not easy to stay silent when your reputation is under attack. The world has conditioned us to believe that the loudest voice wins, that silence is weakness. That's a lie. Silence is power. It forces people to question the narrative. It shifts the attention away from the drama and toward the facts. It makes the liar work harder to keep their deception alive. And eventually, they slip. Think about a muddy river. When the water is stirred, it's impossible to see through. But when you leave it undisturbed, the mud settles and the water becomes clear. Your silence does the same. It allows the noise to fade so the truth can rise to the surface. The more you defend yourself, the more you stir the waters, keeping the lie alive. So what should you do when someone lies about you? First, pause. Do not react impulsively. Anger and frustration will only cloud your judgment. Second, ask yourself, does this lie define me? If you know the truth and the people who matter know the truth, then what more do you need? Third, stay the course. Continue living with integrity. Do not let their words shape your actions. The lie will collapse under the weight of reality. Of course, there will be moments when staying silent feels unbearable. You may want to shout the truth from the rooftops to demand justice. But remember, the most powerful statement is the one left unsaid. It forces people to think. It makes them question. It creates doubt, not in you, but in the liar. People who spread lies thrive on your reaction. They want you angry. They want you defensive. They want you tangled in their web. Deny them that satisfaction. There is nothing more terrifying to a liar than a person who refuses to engage. It strips them of control. It leaves them exposed. Over time, people start to notice patterns. The same person who lied about you will lie about someone else. And when that happens, the credibility they built on deception will crumble. Because while lies may spread quickly, they never last. The truth, however, stands the test of time. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to force it. You just have to stand firm and let it reveal itself. 4. When they play the victim. There are people who never take responsibility. No matter what happens, they are always the victim. They twist the story, leave out key details, and somehow they are the ones who were wronged. It doesn't matter if they manipulated, betrayed, or took advantage of you. In their version of reality, they are the innocent one, and you are the villain. They do this because it works. People sympathize with victims. People want to believe the one who appears weak, the one who cries the loudest, the one who acts as though the world has turned against them. And if you're not careful, you'll waste your time trying to defend yourself, trying to prove that you are not the monster they make you out to be. But let me tell you something. The more you explain, the more guilty you look. The more you try to clarify, the deeper you sink into their trap. Because the truth is, they don't want resolution. They don't want to make things right. They want to control the narrative. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a time when I considered someone a close friend. We had known each other for years, and I had always been there for him. Whenever he needed advice, I listened. Whenever he was in trouble, I helped. I never asked for anything in return. But one day he asked me for something I couldn't give. He wanted me to pull strings for him, to get him a job he wasn't qualified for. I told him the truth. I couldn't do that. That's when everything changed. Suddenly, I became the bad guy. He started telling everyone that I had abandoned him, that I was selfish, that I only cared about myself. He painted himself as the victim and made sure everyone heard his side of the story. He conveniently left out all the times I had helped him before. He ignored the truth that I simply couldn't do what he was asking. Instead, he created a false reality where he was betrayed and I was the villain. And the worst part, people believed him. They didn't ask for the full story. They only saw his tears, his frustration, his performance. That's the power of manipulation. It doesn't rely on facts, it relies on emotions. A skilled manipulator knows that if they cry loudly enough, if they act hurt convincingly enough, people will believe them. And if you try to fight back, if you try to explain, you only make their case stronger. So what do? You let them talk. You let them play their role while you remain silent. Because the truth is, people who play the victim will eventually expose themselves. They will use the same tactics on someone else. They will repeat the same pattern, and slowly, people will start to see the truth. Their mask will slip. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's exactly what needs to happen when you deal with people who play the victim. You cannot change their story. You cannot force them to see the truth. What you can control is your response. And the best response? Silence. Do not explain yourself. Do not argue. Do not try to convince them of the truth. The more you engage, the more they twist your words. The more you defend yourself, the guiltier you look. Think of it like a storm. When the wind is raging, when the rain is pouring down, you don't go outside and scream at the clouds, demanding they stop. You wait. You let the storm pass. And once it's over, the sky clears and the truth remains. This is exactly what happens when you refuse to play their game. The more you stay silent, the less fuel you give their false narrative. People who constantly play the victim will eventually expose themselves. Their pattern will become clear. People will see through them. And when that happens, they will be left standing alone in the storm they created. But what if it's someone close to you? A friend? A family member? Someone who knows exactly how to make you feel guilty? The answer is the same. Do not engage. Set boundaries. Let them spin their story, but do not let it affect your peace. You know the truth. And if the people around you choose to believe the lie, let them. The ones who matter will see reality in time. Seneca said, "Time discovers truth." It always does. The people who manipulate, who twist reality to make themselves the victim, may win in the short term, but in the long run, they will always be exposed. The truth has a way of revealing itself, no matter how much someone tries to distort it. But you must be patient. This is where most people fail. They want justice immediately. They want people to see the truth right away. But that's not how it works. Lies are like smoke. They can fill a room quickly, they can cloud people's vision, but eventually the air clears. And when it does, the people who spread lies, who manipulated others into believing they were victims, will have nowhere left to hide. So the next time someone tries to play the victim, remember this: your silence is your power. Let them talk. Let them spread their version of the story. You stay focused. You stay in control. You let karma handle the rest. Because in the end, the truth always comes out. And when it does, you will still have your dignity, your self-respect, and your peace of mind intact. But them? They will be exposed for who they really are. 5. When they ignore your worth. Nothing stings more than realizing you are being taken for granted. You give, you invest, you show up, only to be met with indifference. You support them, yet they barely acknowledge you. You sacrifice, yet they act as if it means nothing. The realization creeps in slowly, like a cold wind through a crack in the door. They don't see your worth. Or worse, they see it and they choose to ignore it. You've been there. Maybe it was a friend who only reached out when they needed something. Maybe it was a colleague who took credit for your work while acting like you were replaceable. Or maybe it was someone you deeply cared about. A partner, a family member, who treated your time, energy, and presence as something they were entitled to, instead of something valuable. It reminds me of a former coworker of mine. Let's call him David. He was the type of guy who always went the extra mile, stayed late to help finish projects, volunteered for the tough assignments, helped teammates when they struggled, but when it came time for recognition, he was overlooked. Again and again. Promotions came and went, yet they always picked someone else, someone who did less but talked more. David stayed quiet. He kept working, kept hoping that eventually someone would notice. But no one did. One day he finally had enough. He walked into his boss's office, not to argue, not to beg, but to resign. He didn't need to prove his worth anymore. He didn't need to convince anyone. He simply removed himself from the place that refused to value him. And here's what happened next. 2 months later, they were begging him to come back. Suddenly, they realized how much they had lost. Suddenly, they saw his value. But by then, it was too late. David had already moved on to something better. That's the lesson. When people ignore your worth, you do not fight for their recognition. You do not beg for their appreciation. You walk away. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Do not waste your time on people who refuse to see your value. If they don't recognize it now, they won't recognize it later. And if you have to convince them, it's not real appreciation, it's obligation. The mistake many people make is thinking that if they just try harder, people will finally see their worth. They believe that if they give more, love more, sacrifice more, the other person will finally wake up. But let me tell you something. If someone ignores your worth now, more effort won't change that. It will only reinforce their belief that they don't have to appreciate you. Think of it like this. A glass of water means nothing to someone standing by a river. But to a man dying of thirst in the desert, it's priceless. Your value doesn't change. What changes is who recognizes it. So what do you do when someone ignores your worth? First, you stop explaining it. Stop trying to prove yourself. Stop justifying why you deserve better. People who refuse to see your value are not blind. They are choosing not to look. You cannot force them to see what they refuse to acknowledge. Second, observe their actions, not their words. Someone who values you will show it through consistency, respect, and effort, not empty apologies, not promises to do better that never turn into action. People reveal how much they value you by the way they treat you when they don't need anything from you. Third, step back and watch what happens. The moment you stop giving, the moment you stop making yourself available, the moment you stop chasing their approval, their true feelings will be exposed. If they care, they will notice your absence. If they don't, they never deserved your presence. This is where Stoicism becomes your shield. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled over Rome with wisdom and restraint, wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Your peace does not come from other people recognizing your worth. It comes from knowing your own value, regardless of whether others see it or not. That is power. That is freedom. Think about the greatest leaders, the most respected figures in history. Do you think they spent their time chasing the approval of those who didn't value them? No. They walked away. They focused on what mattered. They let their absence do the talking. So the next time someone ignores your worth, resist the urge to argue. Resist the urge to convince them. Instead, step back, remove your energy, let them feel your absence. Because one of two things will happen. They will realize what they lost, or they never valued it in the first place. Either way, you win. 6. When they try to provoke you, there will always be people who thrive on conflict. They poke, they prod, they say things just to get a reaction. They want to see you lose your temper, stumble, or lash out. It's a game to them, a test of how easily they can pull you out of character. And if you take the bait, you hand them exactly what they want, control over your emotions. It happens everywhere. At work, in friendships, in relationships, some people simply cannot stand to see you calm, in control, and unshaken. They need to pull you into their storm because they cannot handle the fact that you are at peace. A group of friends sat at a bar one evening, sharing drinks, laughing, unwinding after a long week. Everything was fine, until one of them, let's call him Jake, decided to test someone. He leaned in, smirking, and threw out a jab, a personal one designed to hit where it hurts. The group went silent, waiting to see what would happen. The target of the insult, a man who had dealt with this kind of thing before, did not react. He didn't flinch. He didn't fire back. He just smiled slightly, sipped his drink, and let Jake's words hang in the air, unanswered. The tension shifted. Jake was expecting anger. He was expecting a defensive response. He got nothing. And suddenly, his attempt to provoke had backfired. He looked foolish, desperate, He had played his hand too early, and now everyone at the table saw him for what he was, a man who needed to tear others down just to feel in control. This is how you win without fighting. This is what true power looks like. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor constantly surrounded by politics, betrayal, and power struggles, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He knew that the real battle is not with the one provoking you. The real battle is within yourself. Because when someone provokes you, what they are really testing is your self-mastery. Do you control your emotions, or do your emotions control you? Do you act with intention, or do you react on impulse? When you let someone provoke you, you are handing them the reins. You are saying, "You decide how I feel. You dictate my response." But when you remain calm, when you refuse to engage, you take that power back. Think about the last time someone tried to get under your skin. Maybe it was a coworker making a passive-aggressive comment. Maybe it was a friend who kept pushing a sensitive topic. Maybe it was someone in traffic, honking, yelling, daring you to engage. Did you react? Did you allow them to change your mood? Did they succeed in making you feel irritated, defensive, or angry? Or did you stay in control? Did you recognize the game they were playing and refuse to participate? Because that's the key, recognizing the game and choosing not to play. Imagine a flame. A fire feeds on oxygen. The more you fan it, the bigger it grows. But what happens if you starve it? If you refuse to give it the air it needs, it dies. Provocation works the same way. The more you react, the stronger it gets. But when you give nothing, no anger, no frustration, no reaction, it suffocates. It dies on its own. This is why silence is such a powerful weapon. It leaves the other person with nothing to fight against. No fuel, no momentum, no energy to keep their attack alive. It forces them to sit with their own words, their own behavior, and their own insecurity. And this is where you win. Because here's the truth. People who provoke are usually revealing their own weakness. A person who is truly strong, truly confident, doesn't need to tear others down. They don't seek conflict, they don't need validation through domination. But those who provoke, they do it because they are insecure. They need to feel powerful. They need to see that they can shake you, control you, manipulate you. When you don't react, you take that power away. So what should you do when someone tries to provoke you? First, pause. Recognize what is happening. Feel the initial surge of emotion, but don't act on it. Second, breathe. Give yourself a moment. Let the words pass through you without taking hold. Third, decide what deserves your energy. Ask yourself, if I respond, will it change anything? Will it make my life better? Or will it just pull me into their game? The answer is almost always the same. They are not worth it. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, wrote, "If a person gave your body to a stranger to do whatever they like, you would be furious. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who insults you, letting them control your emotions." Read that again. You wouldn't let someone grab your arm and force you to punch yourself. So why do you let people grab your emotions and force you into anger? Why do you let them dictate how you feel, how you act, how you respond? The next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this. Your power lies in your control. They want to pull you into the fire. Stay cool. They want to get under your skin. Stay untouchable. They want to see you react. Stay silent. Because in the end, the strongest person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest. It's the one who refuses to be controlled. 7. When they regret losing you. At first, they didn't care. They ignored your worth, dismissed your efforts, and acted as if your presence in their life was something they were entitled to. They believed you would always be there, no matter how little they gave in return. They took your kindness for weakness, your patience for submission, your loyalty for something they could exploit. You gave, and they took. You tried, and they remained indifferent. You stayed, and they never thought twice about what life would be like without you. Until one day, you left. Maybe you walked away silently, maybe you didn't say a word, maybe you simply stopped trying. No warnings, no arguments, no drawn-out goodbyes. You just made a decision to remove yourself from a place where you were not valued, to stop watering a dead plant, to stop investing in a situation where your worth was ignored. And now they regret it. Suddenly, they see what they had. Suddenly, they realize what they lost. They start remembering all the little things you did for them, the ways you supported them, the moments they overlooked. Now their mind replays those times when they should have been more appreciative, more present, more aware. But here's the truth. They didn't lose you. They lost access to you. They lost the privilege of your presence. They lost the version of you that cared, that tried, that stayed. This is the cycle of human nature. People don't appreciate what's always available. They don't value what they believe they'll never lose. They only wake up when it's too late. They only realize your worth when they can no longer benefit from it. And now the very thing they took for granted is the thing they crave the most. But not because they've changed. Not because they've had some deep realization about their mistakes. No, because the void you left behind is unbearable. The comfort, the support, the effort that they assumed would always be there has vanished, and they don't know how to fill that space. But here's where most people go wrong. When someone comes back, they assume it's love. They assume it's change. They believe that regret means growth, that an apology means transformation. But that's not always true. Sometimes it's just a reaction to loss, not a realization of your worth. Sometimes the only thing they truly miss is how you made their life easier, how you made them feel important, how you sacrificed for them without asking for much in return. If they truly valued you, they wouldn't have put themselves in a position to lose you in the first place. That's why you don't let their regret become your burden. It's easy to feel a sense of justice when they come crawling back. To hear their apologies, to see their longing, to watch them struggle with the weight of their mistakes. But you must ask yourself, why does it take losing you for them to see your value? A person who truly respects you doesn't wait until you're gone to appreciate you. They don't realize your worth only after you've removed yourself. They don't learn to value you just because they can no longer reach you. That is not growth, that is loss. And loss is not the same as love. So what do you do when they regret losing you? You stay gone. No explanations. No second chances. No, maybe one day. Because real self-respect means knowing when to walk away and never looking back. They had their chance. They wasted it. You do not have to entertain the idea that things would be different if you gave them another opportunity. You do not have to carry the weight of their regret. You do not have to comfort them through the pain of losing you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." If their ambition was to keep you only after they lost you, then they never truly deserved you. If they only recognize your value when it's convenient for them, that is not love. That is desperation. That is the fear of emptiness. That is the realization that they will never find someone who would tolerate what you did, love the way you loved, or give the way you gave. And here's the most important part. You do not owe them closure. You do not owe them an explanation. You do not owe them access to you just because now they understand what they lost. Their regret is not your responsibility. Their pain is not your problem. Their sudden realization does not mean they are entitled to a second chance. Because the strongest move you can make, the one that truly reclaims your power, is to leave the past where it belongs. Not out of bitterness, not out of revenge, but because you've grown beyond the version of yourself that accepted less than what you deserve. You spent too long being unappreciated. You spent too long being an option while treating them like a priority. You spent too long explaining your worth to someone who refused to see it. You do not go back to that. You do not rewrite a story that already failed. You do not hand them back the privilege of your presence just because they finally realize what they took for granted. Because if they had truly cared, if they had truly valued you, they would have seen your worth while they had you, not just when they lost you. So let them regret it. Let them sit with the consequences of their choices. Let them wrestle with the pain of knowing they can never go back to the way things were. That is their lesson to learn, their burden to carry, their consequence to face. You, on the other hand, have something much greater to focus on: your future. A future that no longer includes people who needed to lose you to appreciate you. A future where you no longer settle for being overlooked. A future where your presence is valued by those who see your worth the first time, not just when it's too late. They had their chance, they wasted it. And now you are no longer available. Life will test you. People will lie about you, betray you, insult you, and try to pull you into their chaos. They will ignore your worth, provoke you, and only regret losing you when it's too late. But through all of this, you have a choice: react or remain in control. Silence is not weakness. It is discipline. It is power. It is the weapon of those who refuse to be manipulated by emotion, by provocation, by the desperate need for approval. The strongest individuals are not the loudest. They are not the ones who argue, who demand, who fight for recognition. They are the ones who remain steady, unshaken, untouchable. This is the mindset of mastery, the ability to detach, to let karma handle what words never could, the ability to walk away without bitterness, without regret, because your self-worth is not defined by the validation of those who failed to see it. You are not here to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You are not here to fight battles that time will settle for you. You are here to rise above. Every situation in life is an opportunity to practice this, to strengthen your resilience, to refine your discipline, to become someone who cannot be controlled. So now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever chosen silence when someone tried to pull you into a battle? Share your experience in the comments below. Let's learn from each other.